It's all good. That should be good then. All right, seems like a good number. We made a nice and even, guys. And with that being said, I'll let me over that way a little bit, and we'll just stand a little bit over this way. I'd say away from the pigeons. A little bit dangerous, I'd say. So we'll just come over here.
Голуби немного опасны, прикинь.
Stand around so this way.
Они много опасны.
Looking good. Well, everybody, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the tour today. My name is Bradley. I'll be your tour guide today, taking you through the sights and history of Sydney. And if you're new to Sydney, welcome, everyone. And if you've been here before, welcome back to lovely Sydney. Should be a bit of a cloudy day today, I would say. Now, it has said I think it might rain about halfway, so hopefully brought an umbrella and whatnot, but I'll try to keep us in the shade. But with the tour as well, if you haven't done a free tour before, well, I'm Free was started 16 years ago, back in 2009, as a way to give tourists of all budgets a good way of seeing Sydney. So instead of paying $30 or $40 at the start of this tour, we prefer to let you try before you buy. And if by the end of it, you enjoyed it, you feel like you've learned something along the way, then all I ask is they leave us with what you think it was worth to you. That can be anything from cash, foreign currency, card and card reader, beer, dinner, bouquet of flowers, pretty much anything very much appreciated. So that's sort of how we work here today. But also with the tour as well, if you need to leave the tour at any point, feel free to. It's perfectly fine if you need to leave. All I ask is let me know, so I'll make sure we haven't lost anyone along the way as we're walking around here. But also, safety is my number one priority as well. So I always like to mention that when we get across the roads here in Sydney, if we can just wait in one big group, wait for the red light to turn green, and we all cross together, it's just much more safe and effective that way. And if you somehow get left behind on the other side, I just ask you wait for the green light again. Won't take it very long, and they can cross over nice and safe. So no running in front of cars or anything like that. And a med kit, I got a band-aids and stuff, so feel free to ask, and sunscreen too if you need some sunscreen. But with all that being said, we start the tour right here in the town hall area, and I would like to pay my respects to the indigenous people of this land, the elders past, present and emerging, more specifically the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who've been living around here in Sydney for up to 30,000 years, which I'll talk about more of the history as we get up on the tour as well. And I almost forgot to mention one more little thing, and that is about myself. I'm everyone in crew. Who am I? Again, I said my name's Bradley. I'm a Sydney sider, born and raised around here, more specifically out west in the Blue Mountains sort of area actually. So I know plenty of spots. I've been visiting here all my life in Sydney area, and also the whole of Australia. So throughout the tour, feel free to ask me plenty of questions as well. Happy to help you out with whatever's on your mind with the tour as well. But with all that being said, guys, starting the tour, I mentioned we have the Sydney Town Hall area where we'll begin our tour today, with about a 2.5-3 hour tour today as well, by the way. Right here, Town Hall area. Well, 200 years ago, this place right here would have been a terrible place to start the tour. Not just because of all the pigeons and the pollen around here, but because this is where Sydney's first cemetery was. And we only buried the bodies just a few inches under the ground, literally right around here. Now that's all well and good when everyone was out living by the coast near the rocks, but as the population started to grow, more and more people started to live around here, and eventually it wasn't so great having the smell of dead bodies where you're living. So eventually they dug up all the bodies and moved it out west to Rookwood near Lidcombe, the big cemetery out there to the west, leaving us though with a bit of empty space around here to begin building Sydney's Town Hall right here, this lovely large building. Now the Town Hall started in 1868, finished building in 1889, so about 20 years to build, and was originally used as a reception hall for all visiting ambassadors, VIPs to Australia, but by the 1970s it became more of a concert hall, ranging from anything from the opera all the way to Lady Gaga, with most of the important Sydney council work being done in the big concrete building just behind it over that way. A little less pretty, I might say, but a little more functional. The neighbour though, just to our left over this way, is the St Andrew's Anglican Cathedral. It's the oldest cathedral in the entire country of Australia, dating all the way back to 1868. which is not very old, I'm sure, for many people from other countries, but it's old for us here in Australia. Got to cut us a bit of slack. Good example, though, of neo-Gothic architecture in Australia trying to recreate England back in the early 1800s. As we're a little homesick back then, I would say. But both of these buildings are running along George Street just behind us here, sort of the main street here in Sydney, I would say. And we're going to follow along George Street now, walking just over this way to the lovely Queen Victoria building. So we'll grab the umbrella. We'll head over just this way, everybody. I think so. Well, it depends how much time you have. Maybe you want to see the rest of the city. Well, I think you should have plenty of time then. Yeah. We do a lot in the city. Probably like 4 days here. An extra day out in the Blue Mountains. And the other two, just doing whatever you want, really. Yeah, definitely worth it. And you can take the train there. It's nice and easy. You just take the train. It's really cheap as well to get there. About 2 hours. That's how I go there. Yeah, so feel free to ask it if you've got questions about it. Happy to help you out. I like the red as well. Very nice. Stand out. Yeah, no, all good. I think my favorite color is red. So.
I like bright.
Yeah. I'm stuck with bright green, which is not my choice.
Because everyone can see.
I know,
nobody can get lost.
Yeah. It's not too common. Unless they walk to a construction site where all the people are wearing the bright green as well.
Wow. Yeah, I like
crossover, guys.
Maybe I would like to join some another tours too.
Yeah. More around. Yeah, you can jump. I mean, there's a lot of tours around here, a few free ones as well. Like
I didn't know it's actually like.
Yeah, you can go into the government house, botanical gardens. They all have tours in there as well, which is really cool.
Wow. I have to learn about it.
Yeah.
Where and when happening.
Stand around here.
Okay.
We're here. And look, guys, we're just standing right at the front of the Queen Victoria building, right here, the QVB, and we do like to short words here in Australia. Queen Victoria building, QVB, Melbourne Cricket Grounds, MCG, even though it was too long, this called the G down in Melbourne. Service station becomes Servo, afternoon becomes Arvo, avocado becomes Avo. Plenty of slang that's to learn here in Australia. But before I talk more about that building, about the statue we just walked past here, and even if you didn't know who it was, you may be able to have a pretty good guess. Queen Victoria building, it's Queen Victoria. She was originally at the front of the Irish House of Parliament in Dublin, but by the early 1900s, she wasn't so popular anymore, so eventually she got moved around and put into storage in 1947, eventually being taken out of storage for the grand reopening of the QVB in 1986. Now technically, she is still on loan from Ireland, but I don't think they want her back anytime soon, I would say. But she didn't come alone though, she also brought her favourite dog with her, Isla, who's just over here, has a little trick for us if we come up close, guys, so come this way. Gather around, sit around this way, plenty of space. Listen, what's my name? Listen.
I was once the companion of the friend of the great Queen Victoria. Because of many good deeds I've done for the death of my children, I have been given the power of speech. If you cast a coin into the wishing well now, I will say, thank you.
And they can throw in a coin if you've got the chance, but I'll just pretend.
Thank you.
Thank you. So hopefully you can all hear that. We have a talking dog hidden right here in the heart of Sydney as well. Her favorite dog, Isla, who now raises money for deaf and blind children right here. And there's also an elaborate covering for the underground car park's exhaust board right here as well. A little secret right there. But he talks every now and then, but we'll keep walking, heading into the QVB this way, everyone.
Старайся рядышком, да, со мной быть? That is free excursion.
Like a camping tour sort of thing. Interesting. I don't know too many on the top of my head, but I could try to help and discuss and see what we can find. But we're going to stand right here then. Something guys. Yeah, a bit of room to the left over here. To the people. And maybe come in as close as possible. We've got to shove people in. Let's get close. Just watch out for people walking through as well. But looking good. Well, everybody, welcome now to the inside of the Queen Victoria building right here. Quite a large, lovely building, I would say. But before this building was here, this area of Sydney used to be where the original markets of the colonies were. There's things like fresh fruits, vegetables, a bit of livestock and whatnot, all bought and sold around here. However, by the early 1890s, we wanted a more formalized structure for trade. So in 1893, we began building the QVB, taking only 5 years to build, finishing in 1898 in a sort of Romanesque revival style building. Thing is though, it's a very big building. We actually couldn't find enough shopkeepers or artisans to fully occupy the building until around the 1930s. Then long after, occupation fell down again as the rent and maintenance was a little too expensive in this building. Basically just being the Sydney Council, the only people using this place. And by the 1960s, well, there also became a genuine proposal to knock down this entire building and turn it into a car park. Now, thankfully, that didn't happen as a Malaysian company came to the rescue and signed a 99-year profit-sharing lease with the Sydney Council on the condition that they renovated and restored this building into a shopping centre. So they did a pretty good job, I would say. But if you don't like shopping, still a few things you can check out in this building. One of those being 2 clock towers. There is a clock tower on the far end showing Australian history, and the other one is just behind us on the roof up there showing British history, which both light up on the hour, every hour. A little display at the top of the clock up there, although it has been broken for as far as I can remember, but hopefully they fixed it by now. But also, whilst you're there, you can head right to the middle, right here, and at the very top on the 3rd floor, there's a big dome, a beautiful dome at the very top. And there's also a handwritten letter by Queen Elizabeth herself for the grand reopening of the QVB. However, we have no idea what the letter says, as she specifically stated we cannot open the letter until 99 years later when the profit-sharing lease finishes in the year 2085. Now, I'm not sure how many of us are willing to wait another 60 or so years for the letter to probably just say, congratulations on restoring your building. It's not be that interesting, but we'll wait 60 years to find out. But on that note, guys, we'll continue walking, heading out to Pitt Street Mall over this way, everyone. Yeah, I would see you mostly from home, yeah. But then it's working. What about yourself? You working and on holiday?
Ну, долго, он будет весь город нам показывать. Что ты думал? Ну, а видишь, он такие интересные истории рассказывает. Что здесь был не город, а кладбище, например. Ты знал такое? Да. Да? Тебе это все в школе рассказывали? А еще что рассказывали?
Знаешь, там делать камни, там
Рокс, да?
да, рок.
А он, наверное, нас туда поведет сейчас на Рокс. Вот ты будешь мне переводить, потому что я не все понимаю.
Very good for travel. You can go around. Run around.
Я помню, это там два мальчика, а потом они взяли 10
10
миллионов
миллионов
из банка.
из банка? Как взяли, украли, что ли? И что?
Потом они спрятали, и оно где-то вот в городе.
Закопали?
Да.
Ого.
Оно только
10 тысяч стоит это сокровище?
Да.
А, потому что деньги обесценились, да?
Да.
Ага. А было столько много, да? Вот они как.
О, мам, можно пойти в Майер потом?
Да, я думаю, что можно. Что-то меня? Если мы потом это вернемся.
Oh, really? You've done a few?
I've done like countries.
Oh my god.
I'm maybe exaggerating a
So
little.
I'd have to assume you've been to Europe then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they all are, right?
Yeah.
Я не знал, что
I
там
love it.
ролик.
Like crazy.
Ролекс? Ну теперь ты знаешь, что там есть Ролекс. А что, тебе очень туда надо срочно? Хочешь часики за 5, 6, 10 тысяч, 12, 13 или 100 тысяч, сколько они там стоят? Даже такие есть там? Ничего себе.
That's true, yeah. And it's like the path you go is still very interesting at the end of the day. Yeah, that's great. It'll be a fantastic
It
tour.
already is.
Oh, yeah.
I've done something like fairy tales. Great.
Yeah. I wonder what it's like, you know. Because I guess the vetting system for all those cruises is all different over the world, you know.
Yeah, but they're all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're all good.
Yeah.
People do love their cities usually when they talk about it. Good. Hello everybody, just stopped around here and we're standing now at Pitt Street Mall, right here, stretched down that way, which used to be a road like Pitt Street just there until the 90s when we made this pedestrianised area. And if you enjoyed the QVB back there, well we do have another lovely Baroque style building, even older than the QVB, called the Strand Arcade. And it's just up this way, about halfway on the left hand side, and it's a lovely building to go inside, a little smaller than the QVB. Great spot though to take some photos inside there, go to the cafes inside there, and also we can grab some Australian souvenirs because instead of international brands at the QVB, the Strand has more Australian brands and designers. Although maybe a little bit more expensive than your typical souvenir, but a lovely place to go, I'd say. But speaking of expensive, well, this area here has also been said to be the 8th most expensive shopping precinct in the world, right here in terms of real estate. So it's the price of real estate, and one of those buildings I'd like to mention in this area It's just above our heads, behind the tree here, all the way up there. You can see a bit of it. The Sydney Tower, all the way up there. And I'll talk more about it up ahead in terms of prices and whatnot. But just to quickly mention, if you want to get into the tower, the easiest way to get there is walking inside this shopping mall right here. So the big opening just there on the right-hand side. Head inside there. There's a few floors with certain elevators taking you on where you want to go up on the building. So just remember that spot right there. To buy the tickets, yeah, you can go inside there. But you can book it online as well. They do prefer when you reserve and get the bookings as well. There's a few tips ahead actually as well I'd mention. But with that being said, we'll continue walking, heading over to Hyde Park. And as we do, I'd like you to keep an eye out for a bird we have here in Sydney. The one with the big white body and the long beak. You may have seen the bird. I got a little story about that bird. So keep an eye out. We'll keep walking over this way, everybody.
Что посмотреть?
Магазин.
Какой? Все магазины.
Everyone who's done it has been like, oh, it's going great so well. Like, just go inside. Yes, I grew up around that sort of area. Yeah, so unfortunately not quite the tourist town, it's not that spot. It doesn't matter, it's a great spot to be. Yeah, and I moved close up in the cities. I went from in the middle of the bush speaking to, just this very small town. I'm like, no, I'll have to go to the city.
Okay. Yeah.
Did a good shape. Great place.
Bush. I don't know if that's like a word that's
Bush people. Bush people too much, but we do say our word for like the forest is bush. We say bush.
Okay.
Like, because you got the city, and you've got like the bush, and then you got the outback.
Okay.
And the outback's like the big, open, vast area with all the big cattle ranches and stuff. So we don't really say forest or whatever else people say.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know where I heard that from, and I was like, I couldn't make sure. Like, I don't know if this is a word.
I've heard the word bush people. Maybe I have, but that's more for like bush people. That's like real, like sort of redneck sort of thing.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a positive. It's not a, okay.
I don't think so.
All right.
Well, it could be positive. Nothing against the rednecks of our bush. But, I wouldn't define myself. I'd say like countryside, probably, and something like that.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
There's certain words that have different connotations, and I always want to be like cognizant.
Yeah, 100%. That could be difficult from time to time.
Yeah, so yeah, if you go out, once we reach like out of Sydney, which is probably like a 2-hour circle radius,
Okay.
then you can call it countryside. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's great.
А, музей? Какой музей? А что там интересного? А что интересного в этом музее? Что интересного в этом музее? О, смотри, в шахматы можно поиграть большие.
Go left here, everyone. Oh, really? Yeah, because like, there's so much more.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. A big one.
Well, everybody, welcome now to Hyde Park, right here, named after the one in London. It's Hyde Park, a little homesick, I'd say. But I mentioned, as we're walking around here, you may see around Hyde Park a bird around here, the one with the big white body and the long beak. Could be sneaking behind me at any moment. Oh, there's one over that way in the distance, behind the guy with the red shirts. There could be one. Oh, there's a few, one over there as well. So if you're around here today, and you may see them, or when you do see them, they are known under a more technical name here in Australia as the Australian White Ibis, the hotel chain Ibis. But here in Sydney, we do like to give the birds a bit of a different nickname. And does anyone know what that nickname happens to be by any chance? We're gonna hit bin chicken. That is exactly right, bin chicken. We like to call them bin chickens, and you'll understand why when you see them in action. They're perfectly shaped beaks, perfect for picking out all the rubbish in the rubbish bins around here. Getting themselves a little lunch or dinner for themselves, hence the name bin chicken. And don't worry, they're not aggressive or anything, but they may try to steal your food if you leave it unattended. They'll just walk up, take it right out of your hands. Something that's happened to me before, so just be careful. But back to the park here though. So Hyde Park has had many uses over time. It's been a footy grounds, cricket grounds, racing track, and these days it is a park. Down that way, past the fountain, all the way to the far end of the park, you will reach the Anzac Memorial, which is a war memorial, and across the road from that, over that way, is the Australian Museum. A fantastic treat to enter, very big museum, open every day, and has some great permanent exhibitions on the dinosaurs, native Australian wildlife, and also the Indigenous Aboriginal people of Australia. And speaking of the Indigenous, well, they have been said to have lived here in Australia as a whole for up to 60,000 years. Potentially even longer than that, living all throughout the country with 250 nations throughout the country and 500 clans within those nations, each with their own unique set of laws, customs, religions, and beliefs. here in Sydney was the Eora Nation, 29 clans in their nation, and to the west was the Darug Nation, 15 clans within theirs. There was also 250 languages spoken amongst indigenous people, with 750 to 1,000 different dialects. So quite a big country, and quite a few languages. Now, unfortunately, the Eora Nation, their language has been lost over time, but the Darug Nation is under reconstruction and could hopefully potentially be taught in schools one day in the near future. So that'd be quite interesting to see, I think. But jumping now a few thousand years ahead into history, we reach the year 1770 and the arrival of the Englishman with the name of Captain James Cook, who sailed the east coast of Australia, claiming this land to be under British rule. Now, he did see the indigenous people living here, but as he didn't see any sort of long-standing buildings or agriculture, he decided that this land was theirs for the taking. And so 18 years later, in 1788, the first fleet of 1,000 convicts rolled into the shore of Sydney Harbour. We're standing here today. The question, though, you might be wondering, is why did they send 1,000 convicts from Britain halfway across the world to New South Wales? Quite a big journey, about 9 months by boat. Well, Britain at the time were overflowing with prisoners, mostly due to some harsh laws and the Industrial Revolution, and they were sending all their extra prisoners off as convicts to the American colonies. However, after the American Revolutionary War, the US didn't really want the convicts anymore, so they had to find a new place to send them. And they thought, well, what about this giant piece of empty, unused land? New South Wales. So they sent them here, but not just here, also Western Australia, Tasmania, and even up north close to Queensland, up that way, mainly to be used as slave labour to sort of kickstart the colony. But eventually, though, they started to get on their feet and build a little colony in the early days. However, by the year 1847, New South Wales, here in New South Wales, we stopped taking convicts. So we needed a new form of immigration to build up the colony, and thankfully in 1851, out near Bathurst to the west, we discovered gold here in New South Wales, kicking off the gold rush, bringing people from all over the world to New South Wales. But as much gold as there was here, there was even more gold found in Melbourne, in Victoria, in the city down there, leading Melbourne to becoming the world's richest city for 30 years. Which they do like to mention from time to time. If anyone's been down to Melbourne, you may hear once, twice, 30 times how rich they were. A bit insecure still, I might say, second city syndrome, if you will. And if you don't know, there's a bit of a rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne, I might say, but maybe not as much as what they used to be. And we did sort of try to settle the debate back in 1901, actually, when Australia federated into a country. However, every country needs a capital, and we thought it should be us. Sydney, we're the oldest, we have the heritage, the institutions, we should be the capital. But Melbourne said, hang on a minute, we're younger than you, we're richer than you, we have a bigger population, we should be the capital. Fair points, we don't start, but with a bit of bickering back and forth, eventually we decided Sydney, Melbourne, why don't we just meet in the middle and create Canberra as our capital? A terrible place to put it. It's in the middle of nowhere and it's either super hot or super cold throughout the year, but that's where we put it. Canberra, about 3 hours away from Sydney these days. You can drive or take the train. But with all this growth and expansion, that does bring us to modern day Australia, and I would say we're quite a peaceful, multicultural country, and also sometimes a focus for world events, such as World Youth Day, which was held in the St Mary's Cathedral, just over there. Lovely large cathedral, although that is not the original one. The original stood for 34 years till it burnt down in 1865. 3 years later, we began building the cathedral we see here today. Now, Town Hall took 20 years to build. QVB took only 5 years to build. Does anyone have any guesses as to how long you think they took taken to build the St Mary's Cathedral? 30 years? Not a bad guess, I'd say. 5, 20, 30, maybe 15, I'm thinking 50 years maybe. It was actually 130 years to finish. At 100 years, yeah, a little later here in Sydney sometimes, at a few decades. It wasn't until the year 1999 when the 2000 Sydney Olympics were about to happen. Thought we'd do a bit of housekeeping. We said, yeah, that looks good, that looks good. Oh wait, we forgot about the cathedral. So in the year 2000, we gave a grant to finish putting these spires at the top, the big pointy spires there, officially completed in the year 2021. So a little late, I might say. But one more structure you might be looking at, just behind me here, is a fountain. This lovely fountain, the Archibald Memorial Fountain. It was finished in 1932 and funded by a very eccentric Australian businessman and journalist who started the newspaper, The Bulletin. However, this guy was also very much obsessed with France. He walked around the city with a French beret and a pencil mustache and changed his name from John Felton Archibald to Jules Francois. Really like France for some reason, not sure why, but anyway, he left money on his deathbed to finish building the fountain here, which was also sculpted by a French sculptor. Quite a bit of interesting French history we have here as well. But we'll walk away now from this Irish, French influenced area over to a more Scottish one, and I'll tell you why everything is named Macquarie here in Sydney. So just grab the umbrella for that, and we'll head over this way, everybody.
Ребеночек, догоняй. Ребеночек.
Oh, it's all good now, it's all good. Yes, that's it, all good, mate. Where'd Scooter Boy go?
He is there behind. He been very busy in internet.
Oh, yeah.
He said he know everything already because they've been excursions from the school.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, around here.
Yeah, he said me now about rocks. He said there is something was like stole from the bank and now the money is going down. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, the rocks stolen from the bank, something like that.
No, he said something like about this. Some story about
yeah.
two boys who've been stolen something from the bank.
That's interesting.
Maybe in rocks somebody told that
Yes,
story. That's why
yeah.
he tell me now.
I do tell a story as well about the rocks area. There was a bank robbery up in the rocks.
Really?
Yeah.
Да? И ты его смотришь? Oh, he said he found my live stream.
Oh, you got a live stream.
That's why he is busy to watch it online.
We'll wait for the next screen.
Okay.
Actually, whilst we stand here though, I'm actually going to pop myself just over here.
Ну прикольно.
Hey everybody, as we wait for the green light, I have a little story here as we stand, and there's a big statue right here as well. And this is Lachlan Macquarie, Governor Lachlan Macquarie. He was our 5th governor of New South Wales, and he's supposed to be here for 4 years, stayed for 11, finishing in 1821. And he was our first governor to not only think Sydney might be a nice place to live, but also a place we could do something about. And so he got to work building his vision here in Sydney. He started building roads, wharves, parks, universities, public infrastructure, useful things. A lot of it he named after himself. Macquarie, Macquarie Place, Macquarie Street, Macquarie Park, Macquarie University, Fort Macquarie, Port Macquarie, Lake Macquarie, plain-names, a bit of an ego, I might say, Mr. Macquarie with his statue right here. But to do any of this building here in Sydney, he needed himself an architect. And thankfully he found his favourite architect by the name of Francis Greenway, who's a convict here in Sydney. But I'll talk a bit more about Francis as we cross the road here in just a moment. Sugar Green very, very soon, so we'll keep walking over here.
Мне хочешь, чтобы я попила? Спасибо. Я сделаю один маленький глоточек. Ой, что, она была газированная, что ли? Надо тебе? Там чуть-чуть осталось. Окей.
Building Macquarie wanted to do, he needed himself an architect. Thankfully, he found his favourite architect by the name of Francis Greenway. Francis Greenway was a convict sentenced to 14 years transportation for the forging of financial documents. But thankfully, he was a much better architect than he was a forger, and helped build many of the buildings we see around here in Sydney today, including the one just in front of us here, the Hyde Park Barracks, finished in 1819, and before then, we actually didn't have anywhere to lock up the convicts, because we thought, where were they going to go? Were they going to run away in the bush, swim away in the ocean? Either way, they're either going to get lost or bitten by something and pass away. Not a big deal if we lose some convicts. However, by the early 1810s, people started openly robbing and killing each other on the streets, so we thought we'd lock them up for the night, keep trouble in the barracks over here. These days, though, no longer used as a barracks, and there's actually a museum inside here, so a lovely, free-to-enter museum, one of my favorite museums to visit here in Sydney, open every day from 10 till 6 p.m. with the last tour at 4:30 p.m. Self-guided, you get little headphones, little iPod, you can walk all around the building and inside there as well. There's some very interesting sort of convict artifacts inside there as well, so I very much recommend the barracks. But another building Francis Greenway helped design and build is on the other side of the road, just there. There's St. James Church, and I'll just stand just over here so you can all see better. St. James Church right here, finished in 1824, and for 50 years was the tallest building in all of Sydney. Dream big Sydney, but to be fair, not many buildings around at the time, so quite tall at the time. These days, though, the current tallest structure in Sydney is just behind it over that way. The Sydney Tower, right there, or the Westfield Tower, used to be known as the Centre Point Tower. It is standing at 309 meters tall, including the antenna, which I think is cheating, but it has a great 360 panoramic view of the city, looking out to the airport, ocean, central coast, and on a clear day, a good 60 kilometers or 40 or so miles out to the Blue Mountains to the west. So some nice views, maybe not quite today, be cloudy up there, I'd imagine, but before you go up there to the observation deck, which is $33 for a ticket, or $26 if you buy a day in advance. But before you go there, you could just go to the bar that's up there. There's a bar up there called Bar 83, about a deck below, and that has no ticket price, but it does have a $30 minimum spend. But for the same price as the observation deck, you may as well go up to the bar, get yourself $30 worth of drinks, and enjoy the view just as much, I would say. Trust me, it won't take very long to get to $30 up there, but I've been there myself, and I can recommend both of them. Some lovely views, I would say. However, if you do want views of the harbour area, Opera House, Harbour Bridge, it is a little blocked, unfortunately, due to all the skyscrapers and buildings over this way. So a little tricky to see. So up ahead on the tour, I will mention 2 other spots you can get some great views of the harbour sort of area. So keep an ear out for that one. But with that being said, speaking of views and history, we'll keep walking just over this way to the Rum Hospital here in Sydney. Go this way. Yeah, well, quick little walk, everyone, and we're now standing right at the beginning of the Rum Hospital here in Sydney. This is a southern wing here, there's a central and a northern wing, which we'll get to in just a moment. But the Rum Hospital, bit of a weird name. Why is it called that? Well, when Macquarie arrived into Sydney, he realized that the only hospital in Sydney for the past 20 years had been a tent. And he wasn't a big fan of that. He wanted a real hospital. So he wrote to England asking for some money, but they replied back saying, no, you're just a bunch of convicts. Why do you need a big fancy hospital? Obvious reasons, I'd imagine, but either way, he had to find a new way to fund his hospital. And he thought about tax. But what can he tax that Sydney settlers love to buy? rum. They love their rum here in Sydney. It was even used as our currency at one stage. So Macquarie went to 3 businessmen and he told them, I'll give you exclusive rights for the importation and sale of rum for the next 3 years if you use parts of your profits to build me a hospital, which they did a pretty big job with, I would say. But the Southern Wing here, not so many uses as a hospital, not quite, but a few uses of different things. Most importantly,